Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, why am I not further ahead? Why is it that some people seem to rise with less talent, fewer resources, and more setbacks while you're still grinding in silence, waiting for your moment to come? Here's the truth that most people never want to admit: it's not the world that's holding you back. It's not the system, it's not your job, and it's not even your past. It's you. More specifically, the way you think. We all carry mental chains. Beliefs we picked up from childhood. Lessons we absorbed from trauma. Ideas we inherited from people who weren't even free themselves. And those thoughts? They're toxic. They're silent. And they're powerful enough to sabotage everything you touch: your career, your relationships, your health, your confidence. And the worst part? You don't even realize they're there. You say things like, "I'm just not good with people. I'm not meant to lead. Maybe it's too late for me. I don't want to sound arrogant. What if I fail?" Sound familiar? These aren't just passing thoughts, they are toxic mindsets, quietly running your life like bad code in the background. And unless you expose them, question them, and replace them with something stronger, you will stay stuck. Not because you're weak. Not because you're lazy. But because your mind is playing a rigged game and the house always wins, unless you rewrite the rules. In this video, we're diving deep into 10 toxic mindsets that are stealing your power, and more importantly, how to break free from every single one. These aren't surface-level tips. These are the hard truths most people are too scared to say out loud. But if you have the courage to face them and the discipline to shift your thinking, your entire life will start to change. We'll cover things like the martyr mindset that keeps you overgiving and underliving, the imposter belief that makes you question every win, the scarcity loop that keeps you scared to take risks, and the victim script that whispers, "It's not your fault," when it really is your responsibility. If you've ever felt stuck, if you know you're meant for more, if something inside you keeps whispering, "There's got to be another level," you're right. There is. But to reach it, you have to confront the mental traps keeping you small. So let's tear them down. One by one. Let's break the illusions. Let's shatter the lies. Let's talk about what it really takes to become powerful from the inside out. Because your power isn't something you find. It's something you free. 10 toxic mindsets that keep you from becoming powerful, and how to break free. Mindset number 1, seeking external validation. This is perhaps the most common toxic mindset, and also one of the most damaging. The desire for external validation stems from a deep-seated belief that your worth is determined by the opinions of others. Whether it's likes on social media, compliments from peers, or approval from authority figures, you've been conditioned to crave outside affirmation. Why it's toxic? It puts your self-worth in someone else's hands. You become reactive instead of proactive, constantly adjusting your behavior to please others. Over time, you lose sight of who you are and what truly matters to you. Real-world example. Imagine you're in a relationship and your partner's mood dictates your self-esteem. If they're happy, you feel good. If they're distant, you spiral. That's emotional dependency, not love. And it's fueled by this toxic need for validation. How to break free. Practice self-affirmation. Every morning, affirm your worth regardless of external circumstances. Set internal benchmarks. Define success on your own terms. Create before you consume. Focus on producing meaningful work rather than reacting to what others post or think. Mindset number 2, fear of rejection. Fear of rejection holds people hostage. It's the voice that tells you not to apply for that job, not to approach that person, and not to speak up in the meeting. It's an invisible cage made of what-ifs and imagined worst-case scenarios. Why it's toxic? Fear of rejection leads to inaction. And inaction is the enemy of growth. Every missed opportunity due to fear becomes a regret. Worse, it chips away at your confidence, reinforcing the idea that you're not good enough. Real-world example. You have a business idea but don't share it because you're worried people will laugh. Years later, you see someone else succeed with a similar idea. The only difference? They weren't afraid to be told no. How to break free. Desensitize yourself. Intentionally seek out small rejections to build resilience. Reframe rejection. Instead of seeing it as a failure, see it as feedback. Practice detachment. Your worth isn't determined by any single outcome. Mindset number 3, victim mentality. The victim mindset convinces you that life is happening to you, not for you. It tells you that circumstances are to blame for your problems, your upbringing, your boss, your partner, the government, the economy. Why it's toxic. This mindset robs you of power. When you believe external forces control your life, you stop taking responsibility. You become passive, reactive, and eventually bitter. Real-world example. Someone loses their job and blames the company, their manager, the market, everything but themselves. They don't upskill, network, or try something new because they believe the world is against them. How to break free. Shift to accountability. Ask, what could I have done differently? Focus on response over circumstances. You can't always control what happens, but you can control how you respond. Recognize your agency. You have choices. You can change your environment, mindset, or actions at any time. Mindset number 4, instant gratification. We live in a world that rewards speed. Likes are instant. Deliveries are same day. But real power, the kind that lasts, is built slowly and deliberately. The need for instant results is a poison disguised as convenience. Why it's toxic. Instant gratification keeps you stuck in surface-level living. It prevents you from committing to long-term goals and builds impatience, which leads to poor decisions and constant quitting. Real-world example. Someone starts a fitness journey and quits after 2 weeks because they haven't seen major results. They jump from one diet to another, one program to the next, never giving anything enough time to work. How to break free. Embrace the long game. Understand that anything meaningful takes time. Delay rewards. Practice holding off on short-term pleasures to achieve long-term gains. Track your progress. Keep a journal to reflect on incremental growth. Mindset number 5, comparison trap. Comparing yourself to others is a guaranteed way to feel inadequate. Whether it's someone's career, body, relationship, or lifestyle, there's always someone who seems to be doing better. Why it's toxic. Comparison steals joy. It breeds envy, resentment, and low self-worth. It distracts you from your path and leaves you constantly measuring yourself against other people's highlight reels. Real-world example. You see someone on social media who travels the world, has a beautiful partner, and seems endlessly happy. You start doubting your life, even though you were content moments before scrolling. How to break free. Focus on your journey. Your race is yours alone. Stay in your lane. Celebrate others. Turn jealousy into inspiration. Limit exposure. Be mindful of your social media habits. Mindset number 6, people-pleasing. People-pleasing is the art of self-betrayal. It's saying yes when you want to say no. It's pretending to be someone you're not to avoid conflict or earn approval. Why it's toxic. It leads to burnout, resentment, and loss of identity. You end up living a life that isn't yours, trying to keep everyone else happy while ignoring your needs. Real-world example. You agree to take on a project you don't want, help a friend who never reciprocates, or stay in a relationship where you're not respected, all to avoid rocking the boat. How to break free. Set boundaries. Learn to say no without guilt. Prioritize authenticity. Be honest about your feelings and desires. Know your values. When you're clear on what matters, you stop compromising for what doesn't. Mindset number 7, Fear of change. Change is inevitable, but fearing it is optional. Many stay stuck in situations that no longer serve them because they're afraid of the unknown. Why it's toxic? It keeps you stagnant. It convinces you that familiarity is safer than growth. But in reality, avoiding change leads to missed opportunities, regret, and a life half-lived. Real-world example. Someone stays at a job they hate because they fear starting over. Or they cling to toxic friendships because making new ones seems daunting. How to break free? Expect discomfort. Growth always feels uncomfortable at first. Visualize the outcome. Focus on the benefits of the change, not just the fears. Take small risks. Build your tolerance for uncertainty gradually. Mindset number 8, fixed mindset. A fixed mindset believes your abilities are static, you're either smart or you're not, talented or you're not. This belief kills potential before it even has a chance to bloom. Why it's toxic? It discourages effort and experimentation. People with fixed mindsets avoid challenges because failure feels like a reflection of their identity. Real-world example. Someone avoids learning a new skill because they believe they just aren't good at it. They don't ask questions, seek feedback, or try again after failing. How to break free? Adopt a growth mindset. Believe that skills and intelligence can be developed. Celebrate effort. Focus on progress, not perfection. Learn from failure. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Mindset number 9, negative self-talk. The most damaging voice is often the one in your own head. Negative self-talk erodes confidence, sabotages goals, and reinforces limiting beliefs. Why it's toxic? Your inner dialogue shapes your reality. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you'll act in ways that prove it true. Real-world example. You want to speak at an event but tell yourself you're not qualified. So, you don't apply. Later, someone less experienced gives a talk and you realize the only thing stopping you was your inner critic. How to break free? Name the voice. Separate yourself from the negative self-talk. Counter with truth. Replace lies with empowering statements. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself like someone you love. Mindset number 10, avoiding responsibility, the silent saboteur of your power. Introduction, the allure of blame and the cost of avoidance. Avoiding responsibility is one of the most deceptively comfortable mindsets you can fall into. It feels safe, even justified at times. It's the soothing voice in your head that says, "This isn't my fault," or, "If only they hadn't done this to me." It's the seductive illusion that your problems are because of others, your parents, your boss, your partner, society, luck, timing, or anything other than you. But here's the brutal truth: the more you avoid responsibility, the less control you have over your life. You become like a leaf in the wind, tossed and turned by forces you claim are beyond you. And worst of all, you start believing that you're powerless. That's the mindset killer. That's what robs you of growth, potential, and yes, your personal power. Responsibility isn't about blame. It's about ownership. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And that shift from victim to owner is where transformation begins. Why avoiding responsibility is so dangerous? 1. It keeps you in victim mode. When you avoid responsibility, you hand over your life to others. You start believing that external forces determine your fate. Instead of being the hero of your story, you cast yourself as a helpless character waiting to be rescued. Examples of victim mode thinking. My childhood messed me up, I'll never be normal. I would have succeeded if the economy wasn't so bad. My ex ruined me, I can't trust anyone anymore. Victimhood feels comfortable because it absolves you of action. But comfort is not your friend when you're trying to grow. The longer you sit in this mindset, the more powerless you feel. 2. It halts your growth. Responsibility is the foundation of growth. You can't change what you don't own. When you point fingers outward, you miss the opportunity to examine what's going on inside. If your relationship fails and all you do is blame your partner, you miss the chance to ask, what was my role in this? If you're overlooked at work and you only criticize your boss, you avoid asking, how can I become undeniable? Every time you dodge responsibility, you dodge the mirror. And without the mirror, you can't improve. 3. It sabotages your relationships. People who avoid responsibility tend to be toxic to be around. Why? Because they never admit when they're wrong. They deflect. They justify. They make others walk on eggshells. Over time, this damages trust, communication, and intimacy. Healthy relationships, romantic, professional, or personal, are built on accountability. When you own your part in conflicts, even just a small part, you create space for growth and healing. Real-life examples of avoiding responsibility. Let's explore some relatable situations where this mindset silently creeps in. 1. The relationship blamer. Emma constantly blames her boyfriend for their arguments. She says he's insensitive, lazy, and doesn't communicate well. But when her therapist asks about her own behavior, she becomes defensive. She interrupts, criticizes, and shuts down emotionally, but never sees that as her contribution to the problem. Result, their relationship deteriorates. Emma feels more resentful, and he withdraws further. The shift, Emma begins journaling her reactions during fights. She realizes she often escalates things and avoids vulnerability. She starts taking responsibility for how she communicates, and over time, the dynamic improves. 2. The career complainer. Jason feels stuck in his job. He thinks his boss favors others and that office politics are holding him back. He hasn't asked for feedback, improved his skill set, or applied for new opportunities in over a year. Result, he stagnates, complains more, and becomes bitter toward coworkers who are progressing. The shift, Jason decides to have a candid conversation with his boss. He learns that his communication style often comes across as dismissive. He takes a public speaking course, begins mentoring junior staff, and applies for a leadership program. Within months, his value in the company shifts dramatically. 3. The passive parent. Maria blames her teenage son's rebellious behavior on bad friends and the influence of social media. She refuses to look at how her emotional distance and lack of boundaries contribute to the disconnect. Result, their relationship becomes more strained. Her son feels misunderstood and withdraws further. The shift, Maria starts attending parenting workshops and makes time for honest one-on-one conversations with her son. She learns to listen without judgment and earns back his trust. Where does this mindset come from? Avoiding responsibility is often a defense mechanism formed early in life. It might come from childhood environments where admitting mistakes was punished. Cultural or familial dynamics where victimhood was rewarded with attention or sympathy. Fear of failure or rejection if you own your flaws. A belief that responsibility means blame and therefore shame. Understanding the roots can help you have compassion for yourself but not excuses. Growth means acknowledging the past without letting it define your future. Signs you're avoiding responsibility. Not sure if you're caught in this mindset? Here are some red flags. You frequently say, "It's not my fault." You always have someone else to blame. You rarely apologize without defending your behavior. You resist feedback or constructive criticism. You avoid difficult conversations that require accountability. You expect others to change, but rarely examine your own actions. You feel stuck but haven't made proactive efforts to change. If any of these feel uncomfortably familiar, don't panic. Recognition is the first step toward transformation. How to break free from the responsibility trap. Here's a step-by-step guide to reclaim your power by embracing responsibility. 1. Shift your language. Start with the way you speak. Language reflects mindset. Instead of, "They made me feel this way," say, I felt this way when that happened. Instead of, there's nothing I can do. Say, what's one thing I can do right now? Language shapes thought. Thought shapes behavior. Change your language, and your life begins to follow. 2. Ask empowering questions. Start asking. What's my role in this? What can I learn from this? What's the next right step? How am I contributing to this pattern? These questions flip the script. They move you from helplessness to action. 3. Practice daily accountability. Keep a responsibility journal. At the end of each day, reflect on a moment you reacted poorly. A choice you made that didn't align with your goals. A conversation where you could have been more honest or open. Don't beat yourself up. Just reflect. Growth begins with self-awareness. 4. Apologize without defensiveness. True power lies in the words, I was wrong, and I'm sorry. No, but, no, if you hadn't. Own your part. It builds respect and deepens relationships. 5. Take micro-initiatives. Start small. If you've been blaming your job for your unhappiness, apply for a new one or take an online course to build your resume. If your partner says you don't listen, commit to 10 minutes of undistracted conversation daily. Change doesn't have to be massive, it just needs to be consistent. 6. Create a responsibility culture. Surround yourself with people who value accountability. People who call you higher, not people who coddle your complaints. If everyone around you is playing the victim, chances are, you will too. Seek mentors, friends, or even online communities that challenge you to take ownership of your life. Power versus control, a key distinction. One misconception is that taking responsibility means controlling everything. That's not the goal. Power is not about control. It's about responsibility, your ability to respond consciously, intentionally, and constructively. You can't control other people, past events, or random setbacks. But you can control how you show up, what you focus on, what choices you make next. That's real power. And it's always available when you choose responsibility over blame. Reflections and journal prompts. Use these prompts to go deeper. Where in my life am I currently avoiding responsibility? What is that costing me emotionally, relationally, or financially? What belief is driving my avoidance? What's one action I can take today to own my part? Who do I need to have an honest conversation with? Final words, reclaiming the power that's always been yours. If you're tired of feeling stuck, overlooked, or undervalued, the time to change is now. These 10 toxic mindsets are not just bad habits, they're self-imposed limitations, learned behaviors, and outdated survival tactics. Avoiding responsibility is one of the most disempowering choices we make, and we often make it unconsciously. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that awareness becomes your greatest gift. Because here's the truth. Glowing star, no one is coming to save you. Glowing star, no one is responsible for your healing, your growth, your success, but you. Glowing star, and that's not a burden, it's your superpower. You hold the pen. You choose the plot twist. You decide the next chapter. It all starts with one question. What am I going to do about it?